Hello my dears, welcome back to the channel. Here, let's explore. Yesterday we saw the translation studies intro and also the definitions given by our great authors. Here we go with this part 2 where we can see more info about this translation studies. Beyond all, actually what is beyond all in the sense? We saw so many definitions given by a great authors. Here, apart from all this, that is, the translation is more than these arts, the crafts and also the science. Yesterday we saw one author will say translation is an art, translation is a science, translation is a craft. But it is more than these arts and all things. That is what the fact. It is a process of analysis. If we get one content to be translated, we have to analyze it. If we get a novel, an English novel, we have to analyze it first and we have to think what is the main matter of the novel. So we have to analyze it. So by studying only we can able to analyze. So this is the first process did in a translation. Then interpretation. Okay, we analyzed, we know what is the matter, what is the content, the source, the theme, everything we know about the content which we are going to translate. So now here the author's turn have to interpret. How we can interpret? What is interpretation in the sense? If we get one chance to be speaking, we can interrupt, no? How can you? I explain you with a simple example. If one drawing was there with the tree, that is a empty tree, that is without leaves, fruits, only the branches are simply painted in brown color, and a small leaf, a single leaf was in the tree. That is also drawn in the dry leaf. Not a greeny leaf, that is a dry leaf. It was there. So suddenly, if I saw that painting, I have an imagination that though all the people in the world have lost the hope, that is, I consider the tree as a world and the leaf as a people. So here I am interrupting, no? So only one leaf was there which have retaining the hope since. I hope this interpretation helps you. So this is what interpretation. If we get one text, I said with a drawing, we can say with the novels also. If I say the example with novel, you couldn't catch, if so you didn't study the novel. So I said with the drawing. So first we have to analyze what is, so with the drawing I'll go as it is an example. The picture first I analyze what is that and in which background they drawn and which concept they drawn, all things I analyze. Then I interrupt myself, then I will create. So this is I am interrupting. At last I create one outline. The hope is the best thing to succeed. Like that I create a new one from their content. So it is called the process involved in the translation, and we can say that replacing one set of linguistic sources and values for another. So here already there is one language, there is some resources and also the values are there. Here we are replacing it to another. So the language have some values and special things to be mentioned. If we translate it, the values are also translating it, get increased to the language in which we transfer, that is a target language. So the values are grabbing from the source to the target language is the statement. So originality learns core meaning was there. The originality cannot be done by a translator. For example, I can say that if one dish is recreated, we cannot say that this is exact taste of the same ingredients will be added, but we cannot get the same taste because it is a recreated. It is not created, it is recreated. So we cannot get exact taste, but somehow it will be replaced and somehow it will be fulfilled. So the makeover is there, no? So the meaning, core meaning will be there. The same ingredients, same things, same mixturation, same serving method, everything will be the same. The core is there, but the originality never be recreated in this translation. It is an act of adjusting and compromising exercise. So we have to adjust. If there is no equivalent word for source language to target language, if there is no equivalent word in a target language, we have to adjust that. And also, if an author add their own interpretation to complicate, the author cannot lift the space. But the space cannot be filled with the equivalent content from the source language to target language. So here the author interrupt himself or herself from the target language, and we have to compromise with it. Next, J.C. Catford says that translation is already we saw many authors. Here comes J.C. Catford. Translation is an operation performed on language. So it is a simple statement, right? Some operation to be performed on a language. Translation, this is a process of meaning of SL is substituted by meaning of TL. So here the meaning of source language given a substitution. The target language given a substitution. So for the third line we can get fourth point we can get the meaning here at the last. So the meaning of source language get a substitution by a target language. That is what. So originality lost, core meaning was there. So core meaning was there somehow with the substitute, but the originality is not there. So this is what, beyond all the definitions, these are some other definitions given by the authors. Next we go with the linguistic described. So everyone described how the linguistics see that. So it is a major process on language. So we have to consider the linguistic description also. Now, a patterned behavior. He says that a patterned behavior, it has certain rules and restrictions. Like this, it have to be translated, it have to be given output, it should be like that, given to the readers. So, operation performed on 2 languages. Here the operation is performing on 2 languages, not only from the source, it is also on target language. So, we see that 2 languages operation is what? A linguistic described. So here pattern we saw. Actually certain patterns are there, we know. Then types is also there, no? Types of translation. Types of translation is nothing. There are many types, but the mainly at first they given us non-literary translation and literary translation. The non-literary translation is nothing but translating the fact, that is, there is no imagination involved there. It is just a meaning. So every science word we have meaning. This is chemical. So we can mix it in a beaker. We get this acid or we get this color. So that is what to be in a science and history. Recorded the past events. So this is what happened. We will say to the persons who are living at present, we are telling them the past record of the world history. Economics also, the money, the economy of the world, it is a fact. We can't get into the interpretation, imagination, everything cannot be there. It is only about the process. So, the non-literary translation is what? Just a fact, and the science history we said no. But a literary translation is tough. Yeah, literary translation is a very tough. how it is, a deepest imagination, everything was there. Mainly we translate a novel and dramas in the sense we have to study it in a deep manner. Even a poem, if we study a poem, we have to analyze it. How in the sense, what is the rhyming scheme, what is the pattern used? If we translate into the another language, the pattern of the Tamil and English cannot be same. The pattern of the English and Hindi cannot be same. Every language has its own rules and regulations, own grammatical rules, own grammatical items are there. So we cannot mingle it, or we cannot get an equivalent at all the terms. Yeah, of course we have some equivalent words, but we cannot say that all words are equally described or equally have another word in another language. So literary translation is literally tough. Yeah, literary translation is literally tough, but a non-literary translation is easy. It is just, but there is also some process. While we compare these two, the non-literary is easy, we can say. But there is also work in that. We have to analyze that same signs what are given in that language, and we have to translate, and we have to search the equivalent word for these also. But the 90% we can able to get easily for equivalent word for this non-literary translation. But literary translation is not like that. This is what the main two types of translation. Then change of translation by time. Yeah. For beginning, we are going to the beginning, that is literary and non-literary was sense and style. That is, first a literary translation is for like and sense for sense. That is what is given, that is what. And style, and that is non-literary translation is style only, not mean word for word but sense for sense. So here this non-literary translation is not only mean a word for word but also a sense for sense must be there. Okay, in literary translation we can search a equivalent word, equivalent things. In non-literary there should be a sense for sense. Later in 20th century, with the advent, so if centuries are moving, also everything will be developed in the world, you know. So here comes a 20th century with the advent of structuralism, deconstruction, reader response criticism. Yeah, this is the main thing. If we study criticism, there we can study this deeply. Reader response criticism. So reader also started criticizing, started responding, no, as the time is moving on, the 20th century, a developing century, no. So here we have to consider all this advent. Translation studies took a new turn. Yeah, here comes with all these advent, that is a structuralism, deconstruction, reader response criticism. So everything is there. Translation studies took a new turn. The many types arrived here. So all these types I have mentioned here is like a big matter to be studied. Scholars discussion. This is all the scholars discussion. Apart from this literary translation and non-literary translation, there is number of types are there, such as see literal translation. This is a word for word. Phonological. This is a restricted translation where the phonology of the text is substituted by an equivalent phonology. Then graphical translation. Here also the same graphology of the source language text is substituted by an equivalent graphology. Then grammatical. Grammar source must be substituted by equivalent grammar. Then lexis, not replaced. So it cannot be replaced but equivalent thing to be searched in this grammatical. Then in recent years, the translators taking a cue from the linguistic and literary critics have extended the meaning and significance of translation by adopting a different kind kinds of translation. So they are trying to bring the more definitions and more meanings. Here comes a different kinds also, such as this phonological, graphological, total, restricted, full, partial, rank bound, free, literal, transliteration, transcription, etc. So in number of types are there. We should not be confused of this. Just we can mention that many scholars have discussed these types of translation. Word for word, equivalent grammatical, equivalent phonology, equivalent graphology, like that. The familiar translation can be mentioned in this types of translation scholar discussion. So he see John Dryden divided translation into three basic types. He had given three basic types in the preface to Ovid's epistles. That is, in 1680, the Ovid's epistles was there. On the time, for the translation, he categorized the problems of translation by formulating them as follows. So he started categorizing the problems. First, we saw definitions given by author. Then we saw these definitions. How come they discussed these definitions even? So this is not art. This is not science. This is apart from this. This is an analysis process, interpretation process, creation process. So there is some discussion. Then comes types of translation. They said a main two types. Then because of a lateral time, the 20th century, the types also discussed, and there comes many types arise in that discussion, scholars. Now here comes a problems of translation. See the three things at first. Metaphrase, or turning an author word by word and line by line from one language into another. So that is to be metaphrase. It cannot be done in all the works, all the translation. But we have to do word by word. Then paraphrase. That is a translation with a latitude, a sense for sense view of translation. The equal sense. What is the in one word can have a many meaning. But by reading the content, while reading the before and after only, we can able to know before line and after, with the before line and after line only, we come to know what is the meaning mentioned in that content, in that novel, in that drama. What is the meaning of the word in that particular content will be analyzed only after reading that. So that sense could be there in a translation also. That is what a paraphrase. Then imitation, where the translator can abandon the text of the original as he sees fit. So he have to give that original text how much he can. He have to fit it for that translation. Okay. So this is what given in these three phases. The Ciceronian means that translating that sense only. The meaning I searched, that is like a sense only. Now another comes. This is an end. Why? Because it will move along a lot. So we have to be end here. We can see a part 3 which will be elaborated in this types and definitions. Thank you.